So if you guys don't know, Shelby lives in Maui. I got to meet Shelby. She will be in the next movie. The next movie will be out before you know. I keep on talking about it, but it's definitely getting done. I was able to wet the beak of my editor. I wet his beak a little bit, so he got motivated, and he says he's finishing up the movie. Shelby has an amazing time. The thing that's great about Shelby, and there's another interview from him to be the assembly member for Lahaina, state representative. The great thing about Ellie and the great thing about Shelby is that they talk about everything across the board. We talk about how the fire possibly could have started, the catastrophe itself, and the lack of response from the state and the county and the local officials, the aftermath, what's coming after that. We were able to talk about all that stuff. Shelby has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that, and that's why I can't wait for you guys to see this movie, because Shelby is one of the stars in it, and it's going to be great. But when we talk about what Lahaina looked like before and what it looks like now, Shelby, look at this and tell me your thoughts when you see something like this. There's before and there's after. Kill the volume. We have to kill the volume because we're on YouTube, but you can see it up there, Front Street beforehand. How beautiful it is. The trees, the cars, people going shopping locally. Now look to the right. It looks like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the bottom one.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you the dates we are planning to come back out there, Shelby, are August 1st, because we want to be there for the year reunion.
Wow.
I don't know if it's a reunion or year
memorial. Yeah.
Year memorial. You know what I'm saying? But holy cow. So you know this area. You've been there. You've lived there for quite some time. What are your thoughts now when you see these shots here of before and after?
Well, so that top one, I walked that road for years. I lived on Front Street for almost 5 years. So, that was my walk to work, home from work. Right there, you see Fleetwood's on the right-hand side, burned to the ground. That's one of the places I worked. It makes you feel sick when you see the place that you loved. And I can only imagine people who have been on an island for 30 years, 40 years, a lifetime, how it must feel for them. But I did get the opportunity to drive through Lahaina, and this video, it's showing March, so a lot more has changed. I think I went in at the end of December, and just witnessing the sheer magnitude of the destruction, it was a little cathartic, one, just to see it, but it was heart-wrenching. It made us all cry. And what's happening now is a massive cleanup. And I know that we kind of briefly talked about it on our show last time, but they're starting to get into the residential areas. And mind you, the state of Hawaii is in charge of all of this cleanup. No homeowner is allowed to privately contract out this cleanup process. And so there's like, in particular, I've heard that these contractors are making over $100,000 per property to do this cleanup. I'm hearing that they're still finding bodies within the houses, within structures. Nobody's saying anything. They're just cleaning it up and bringing it over to the new dump that they made. They have cleared over 500 residential lots. I'm hearing that some people are even now camping out on their properties in sheds or tents. There's no building permits have been issued, so nobody has a permit to rebuild. But people are kind of starting to trickle back in to the Lahaina area. But one thing that's still not being talked about is that view of Front Street, the one that we just saw. All of that land on Front Street, all the oceanfront property, is going to be eminent domain.
Yeah.
It is too close to the ocean. They cannot rebuild on the ocean. Piping, electricity, code, rules, whatever you want to call it. It's not possible. So for any, that conversation has yet to really be had, I think for a lot of people. What are you going to do with Front Street? What are you going to do with all of the oceanfront property? Which there is a lot of residential people who were oceanfront. So, I think that's something that's really kind of being kind of we'll deal with that later. Let's talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's right on the horizon.
Yeah. I also heard that if you don't use the contractors that the state has authorized, that you'll get heavy fines if you don't
Yeah.
clean up the stuff yourself, and they're ridiculous. And a lot of people are left with some of those fines. They don't want to use the people to clean up that mess because it's too high priced, and then they get
Yep.
hit with a fine. So it's like they're, it's a way of, it's a money making, entity for people within the county who have power and whatnot. And the
And to
shame
keep
about
the
it is,
secrets. Sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you, but to keep the secrets too, because the anomalies that are still being found in Lahaina are
yeah,
just insurmountable. You can't go into Lahaina without seeing something that goes, that defies all physics.
yeah,
And so these contractors, I do believe that they are working with the government. They are convoluting together to keep the cover up going, because if if we had people who were working nobly, if they came across a body in a demolition site, everything would be stopped. But instead, that's not happening.
yeah, yeah. And the issue with that is that, um, I think a lot of people have been beat over the head. One thing I kind of realized when I went in there last time, Shelby, was that a lot of people they gave up. They were throwing in the towel. They were sick and
Hmm.
tired of trying to hold their local officials and the county officials accountable. And they just said, whatever, at this point, let's just move on.
Yeah.
However, there has been a group, Lahaina Strong, I think, that has been doing some amazing work. They've educated themselves when it comes to legislation. They're paying close attention to it. They're also taking to the streets. Take a look at this video, Cheese Slice. You can throw it up, of what people of Lahaina Strong are doing, really holding the line when it comes to. Start it from the beginning, please, and get the volume up. There you go, and check it out.
One thing I'll explain to you, Don. Every time.
I heard a family every day leaves Maui because they have no place to go, no job to go to, no resident to stay at. We obviously know people like Kelly, who was in the first movie, who was a fire victim thrown out of his place to put in
Kelly's
another fire
next
victim.
door in my house. He's in my house right now. I can hear
No,
him.
he's not.
Yeah, he is. He's laughing with my mom next door.
No, he's not. Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, tell him I love him. I tried to get in touch with him last time I was out there, and his number
He
was
has a new number.
disconnected.
I'm gonna give you his new number.
Please do, and make sure
But
he sees the first movie because he's in it.
I
I don't know if
will.
he did, but this is a story that people talk about, right? Like they're
Yeah.
throwing out. They gave FEMA and a Red Cross a ton of money to find other people housing, and they're paying 3 times the rent for a fire victim to live there. The only problem is they're throwing out the existing family or person living in those residents and creating new refugees of sorts.
Yep.
So the problem is not getting solved; it's just getting moved around. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've heard actually 25% of Lahaina residents have moved off island. So they've successfully gotten a quarter of Lahaina to go. Because this is now survival of the fittest. How long can you withstand having no help? How long can you take this abuse? And I when I it actually those videos with Lahaina Strong, when I see them giving the time of day to the council, I do get saddened because that is a Stockholm Syndrome moment. That council is evil. Everybody in the Maui government is until they are guilty until proven innocent. They are not for the people. They let them come in and give their reasonings and their talks and talk about what should happen in Lahaina. And then they just close the door and they go, cool, we don't care at all. And this is what we're really going to do. So I think at some point there's a wake up call that needs to happen, that these Maui council, city council, these people in the offices, they're not working for Lahaina Strong. They're not working to help Lahaina Strong. They don't even care. I don't know how these people sleep at night living on an island where you might be run into somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's shocking because they're fighting so hard to keep what's theirs, but at the same time, state doesn't care. When there was over 9,000 people that signed a petition not to put the dump in Oluwalu, and they literally already had built the dump before the petition. And they just pretended like they were going to give everybody the choice. It's all just one big game of pretend right now.
Yeah.
People need to wake up that those guys aren't pretending. The people stealing the land aren't pretending, taking it. I mean, they're already going to prove it. And just recently, they just took 20 acres. They eminent domained 20 acres in Kahului to turn it into another dump, a second dump location. Nobody is working for humanity down here. It's crazy.
So there is something, it's kind of interesting too, because leading to that, what you just talked about, this is how good I am. There is a landowner who said he'll donate 5 acres for a landfill so they don't have to eminent domain these areas where they'll be throwing people out. Jamie, if you can throw it on up.
Yeah.
But like you said, they've already made their decision to do so. So even though there's a landowner going, hey, no, use my 5 acres over here so you don't have to kind of take away this land from these people, they're not going to go along with it at all, right? They're going to do what they want to do because they already made their mind up.
Yeah, that's correct. They're going to do whatever. They didn't go through the process of sending a dew laser to burn down the entire town to then help you after. And I get really angry about it because it feels like everybody's under a massive MK Ultra event here. It feels like the amount of just actual vibrational complacency of, you know what, this is totally fine because we need to move on and we need to move forward and we need to rebuild, and it doesn't matter how we get there. Wrong. That's not true. We need to do it in the right way. And I think it's just kind of like this emotional, nobody has the emotional and spiritual and physical capacity to keep fighting. And they're kind of just giving up at this point. And it's sad. It's sad. Where's everybody saying, protect the Aina for the dump? Yeah. You know, we had protests on Mauna Kea. We have protests for all sorts of land destruction, but nobody has anything to say when they're going to go dump 5 tons of I don't know. It's very confusing.
And not allow people to live in that land, throw them out of there where it's valuable land. I mean, it's so crazy because there's so much land which they can put up tiny homes right now. They can actually even build, but they're not doing that.
Why couldn't they eminent domain for that?
In Maui, right? They won't allow the HOAs have more power, it seems, in certain situations from putting up tiny homes. Alfie couldn't put up his tiny homes.
Yep.
I mean, it's just it's sad. The last video of the day, because we got to get on out of here. Let's play this too as well, and we'll wrap up the show. Give me your thoughts on this last video right over here. Housing, still the biggest problem. 25% of people from Lahaina have left the island. What is Hawaii without Hawaiians? You've said that before. Holy cow, take a look at this video.
Every day, someone's being pushed out. Of Lahaina, they have to move off island. How do you expect a community to recover and heal and move forward when the people who make Lahaina aren't even there anymore?
In a last-ditch effort for desperately needed housing, survivors are making passionate pleas to lawmakers to expand the zoning powers of the counties and allow the counties to phase out short-term vacation rentals.
If we do not tackle the short-term rental issue, we can only expect that number to rise from 60%, and in Hawaii will get to a place where it's unrecognizable.
Which it is already unrecognizable. Everybody's leaving. They're gone. You know what I'm saying? And listen, if they don't want to do the whole situation where they don't want to force people to make short-term housing long-term, right? And even still, you know, the city could woo them, right? So the long-term housing, if you can go cut a deal with them somehow and say, listen, let's make this long-term housing. Let's get a fire victim in there. We'll give you insurance. We'll insure your place. We'll give you good money for your spot. Just help us out. There's no good governance there. And really, and this cuts at the essence of what the state can do, or what you know what I'm saying? We know what they will do. If there's a war, they'll send off billions of dollars to Ukraine. If there's a fire on their own people, tax-paying, you know, Americans, even if they are in Hawaii, hey, screw you, find out what's going on. But the fact that they don't even put up tiny housing, there's no tiny housing out there. I mean, they can pick a spot, put up a ton of tiny housing, let those people in the community be part of the rebuild, keep them there, and then get them back into the housing once it's rebuilt. But they're not even trying. That's why I said it seems like a well-managed gentrification. Your final thoughts today, Shelby Hosana.
100%. What has happened here is a petri-sized dish of what could happen anywhere else on the earth. And I hope that people are learning, and I hope that they're watching, and that they never stop questioning and keeping an eye on Lahaina, because what happens here is practice makes perfect. They want to see what they can get away with. Oh, look, we can burn down a town. We can give the people nothing. And guess what? They're not going to even revolt against us, you guys. Let's continue our plans elsewhere. The ants did nothing. We shook up the jar and they didn't even care. And that's kind of a moment that we're at right now, is that this is a moment to show everybody that we can take back land and freedom and try a different way, or we can follow into this path of disaster capitalism. And I pray that people continue to wake up. I know that there's still more truth that needs to come out of Lahaina, about this cover up in general, but this is a perfectly executed plan. They're going along with their plan perfectly. And I believe that they're operating like a well-oiled machine, and we should worry about these evil people that are pushing the real people of Maui, Lahaina, the Hawaiians, out of here. It's a travesty, and I hope there's justice for Lahaina, because you know that can show that there can be justice other places too. But it's a sorrow sight to see, and I wish I had nicer things to say. It always feels very depressing to talk about, but literally, people need to implore an investigation, question. Just keep your eyes on Lahaina. Keep questioning it, because the mainstream media has forgotten about it entirely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a long, drawn-out show today. Man, I've been telling myself I want to get shorter segments, keep it snappier. I brought you on to have that, and I had the longest segments in the world. What's going on? Listen, so many things they're so nuanced. They're not simple, right?
None.
And obviously, I look a little bit further down the rabbit hole. I understand a little bit about what's going on in Brazil, because I was there and I've always followed it. And Lula and Bolsonaro, the whole situation, the Bolshevik revolution, and even Lahaina, because I've been to Lahaina obviously twice now, and it's not as simple as people try to lay it out to be. So, unfortunately, this not being a short show, because we have to dive so deep into it, though. I'm very happy I had you as a co-host today, Shelby Hosana. Thank you so much. Let everybody know where they can find you, and go be with your family. You crazy girl here for 3 hours. What is wrong with you?
No, I'm so glad to have spent this afternoon with you, Pasta. And thank you for having me as a guest host. I will come anytime for long segments or short. But everyone can go find me at unjected.com if you are a human who did not participate in any experiments and you're looking for dating or friendships and community, Unjected.com is going to be for you. Use the code PASTA for a discount. You can also find me at Unjected Official on Instagram and Unjected on X. And join me every Wednesday on the Unjected Show, 8 o'clock Eastern, everywhere you stream podcasts except YouTube.
Yes.